we're all waiting around for him, right? And he's coming from Arizona, and he shows up at my house, high as a kite, holding a harpoon gun.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Bad Times, Good Stories podcast. My name is Joe Flanders. I hope you are having a lovely day, a lovely start to the summer. Hope it's going well. Hope you're having a fun time. I'm doing okay. I'm still a little groggy because I had a outpatient medical procedure yesterday. What does that mean? It means that, I think I mentioned it on the show, I am missing 90% of my large intestine. I mean, I know where it is. It's not like it's just gone. I had it removed to prevent colon cancer. So because of that, I have to have a checkup every couple of years. So that's what I got to do yesterday. I got to clean my body out, give myself some enemas. It was a lot of fun. Coming in hot, I know. Probably weren't ready for enema talk, but yeah. Yeah, it's really just my favorite day of the year where I go to the hospital and then the nurse says, would you like to do the enema or the IV first? I've tried both options and I've found the enema is better to do first and then the IV, because then, you know, trying to give yourself an enema and then also having an IV stuck in your arm, there's a lot to it. Anyway, so far it looks like the results are positive. I'm okay, but it's been, I'm still a little groggy. So, with that, couldn't have asked for a better introduction for today's guest, Zane Helberg. He is a very talented comedian, and he's doing something that I've never heard of before. He is, he is in recovery for drugs and alcohol. He definitely had a wild ride earlier in his life, but he's kind of come out the other side of that. And he's using his stand-up abilities to help other people who are currently going through the rehab process. He performs stand-up at drug clinics, treatment centers, and it's a really cool thing that he's doing. So I really enjoyed talking with him about that and sort of his bigger aspirations for it. And I'm hoping that I can actually film a documentary about all the cool stuff he's doing. So we talk about that. We also talk about some of the crazier things he did while he was still on drugs, including building a skate park in his apartment. And quite slightly less exciting, but also very interesting, he was a door-to-door meat salesman. So we talk all about that. I really enjoyed this conversation. Zane's a great guy. It was really great to meet him. And like I said, hopefully we'll collaborate on some stuff in the future. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you do, give us that 5 stars. Thank you to the 2 people who have done it since last week. We're up to 61 5-star reviews. So what do you say? Maybe next week we'll be at 65? How about that? 4 people. That's all we need. 4 of you listeners to give us that 5 stars on iTunes. You can email me at badtimesgoodstoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can visit badtimesgoodstoriespod.com for past episodes, merch, and a link to the Patreon page if you'd like to support me and like what I'm doing here on the show. And that's all I've got. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Zane Helberg. So how's your day going?
My day's going very good. Been up got up a little early and drove down to Huntington Beach to do a stand-up show at Coastline Behavioral Health.
Right, yeah, you were telling me. Yeah, I can dive right into it. So you are a stand-up, but you kind of have found a niche audience that works for you. It sounds very interesting. So
yeah, a couple years ago in January, I guess of, what was that, 2017, I started a program called Laugh to Live, where I started bringing stand-up comedy shows into drug treatment facilities, hospitals, inpatient rehabs, and it started at the Encino Hospital at a little detox called the Serenity Serenity Treatment Center, and they're since shut down. But it grew. It grew from doing one show a week there in their rec room in the hospital, the detox, to we were doing up to 25 shows a month in August and September of last year. And yeah, we've gone everywhere from San Diego up through San Francisco into South Lake Tahoe. I've done dozens of different facilities, some underprivileged facilities that don't pay, some facilities that can pay. And yeah, it's been a really cool way for me to break out of, the restaurant business and into stand-up full time a couple years ago. And so now we've kind of broken off from doing like the main focus being doing stand-up in the rehabs, and now I tour around and invite rehabs out to theater shows.
Oh, to come to the shows.
Yeah, to come to the shows. So instead of going to one rehab and hitting one at a time, I pick a venue, an event space, and get everyone from all the rehabs and all the recovery community out to the show. And it's been awesome. It's been a really cool, really weird niche in stand-up, because they're really tough crowds a lot of times. A lot of times you get people who are detoxing off heroin or Xanax, and they're sitting there just pissed off. And, getting those people to laugh is... it's sometimes easier than you think, but a lot of times it's very difficult.
Yeah.
But when you do, you get to break these people open and show them they can actually have a good time without putting drugs and alcohol in their body.
Yeah.
It's awesome. There's nothing better than it. Honestly, I could do this for the rest of my life. It's incredible.
Wow. And yeah, I mean, I would imagine if you can break somebody coming down from heroin, you can probably play any club in the country, I would imagine.
Well, I'd like to believe that.
I think so. Well, so how did this idea, where did it come from? Where did the idea of playing, first more actually at the treatment centers before you kind of brought it on a whole tour?
Well, I battled with drug and alcohol addiction for a long time, and I've since gotten over that. But a few years ago, I had gotten to this place where stand-up was kind of like falling out of the being a priority in my life, just because I needed to pay my bills.
Sure.
So I was in this place where I was, which is a whole other story, but I was really like depressed and overweight. I was like 80 pounds heavier than I am right now. Wow. And I was working this job that I hated, and stand-up was slowly becoming this obscure thing that I had once done. I went from doing stand-up every single night for so many years to then it being like 4 nights a week, 3 nights a week. And then I had reached this period where it was like I was doing it twice a month. And I was like no longer, I didn't feel like a comedian. And so I went and I had one show in January of 2017. I opened for a guy at some strip club in Vegas, and I bombed. I was just like, this is just not good.
Yeah.
This is bad. I need to get back in. And, I worked a lot with people recovering from drug addiction. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a monthly show and get back into doing stand-up full time with a show. And I'm going to, help myself get booked on spots around town by doing a monthly show. And so the plan was to put not even a benefit show, but put on a free show for people who were in drug treatment, and bring them out to this. We had this art studio on La Brea and 3rd in Hollywood or South Hollywood. And we were going to do this show once a month, and we set a date for the first one. Was in February of, I guess that was 2017. And I got a phone call from a friend of mine who was the director of client services over at the Encino Hospital. And he was like, look, man, I can't bring my people out. They're in detox.
Right.
They're on meds and they're checked into a hospital. But come into the rec room and do a show for us. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, this is going to be the worst shit Like, there's no way. Like, what? Get out of here. You want me to come to your hospital and stand in your rec room and do jokes for a handful of people who are detoxing off of heroin and have to take their sleep meds at 9:45? Okay. I was like, fine. I'll go do it.
Right.
Because one, I'm like a whore for stage time.
Sure.
And I needed it bad. And two, I guess the friend who introduced me to this guy vouched for him. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go investigate what this is. And it was me and like 4 other guys, I think 3 or 4 other guys. And we went over to this hospital on a Friday night and we put on a show for like between 2 and 4 people.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like 2 people stayed the whole time. The other 2 were like too out of it to even comprehend what was going on.
Right.
But there was this older lady and this young guy in his 20s who were so attentive. And this one kid, I'll never forget this kid, but he was big and fat and like hadn't shaved in a while and he was sweaty and like literally was doing heroin 48 hours prior to this. And kicking, he's kicking. And they had this bin of ice creams. And so you could just eat free ice creams while you were there. So he's just like sucking down ice cream sandwiches like a fiend, but he's dancing and he's loving everyone. He's loving the whole show. And we're basically doing a private show for this kid.
Yeah.
And this other woman who kind of was just there paying attention. But at the end, they both, this woman and this man, were both so stoked that we were there. They gave us hugs, and this kid was just like, "Oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen like live comedy before." He's like, "I didn't think I'd ever be able to have fun at all without doing heroin." He's like, "Now I'm here, and I'm detoxing, and like, dude, this was awesome. When are you guys gonna come back?" And he just wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. And in this moment, I'm watching him have this moment with himself and us with holy shit, I may be able to do this.
Yeah.
I just saw this thing and I was just like, and it tugged my heartstrings,
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, I have to come back. I have to do this again. Like, what? Like, I didn't think this was going to work, but it became more than just doing a show. Like we really gave this guy like an hour and a half of fun in a place where he thought his life was over.
Right.
So we went back the next Friday and had a decent time. And then we went back the next Friday and it was tough. And then we went back and we just kept going back. And for 2 years, it was, a mixed bag. Some days were really rough and they didn't want to listen. And there would be some nights where everyone was in their beds and they're like, fuck you. We don't want to even sit in the rec room to listen to you. So we would leave and not do a show. But more than half of the time, it was some of like the most magical experiences you could have, because a lot of times you're not even doing jokes. A lot of times you're kind of just facilitating like a fun argument or everyone, you're telling stories and the clients were telling stories, and it became this uproarious fun 90-minute experience for them.
Some crowd work.
Well, yeah, you're doing like, I guess you're doing a version of crowd work.
I mean, I know
it's more like crowd control,
right?
And if you're good, you're throwing in jokes along the way, and you're just being fun and funny.
Yeah.
So that's where it started, and from there, I just started picking up the phone and calling people and asking them if it was something that they would be interested in doing, and everyone was saying yes. And it was just a matter of getting through the red tape at each facility. But every single time I spoke to a program director or a clinical director, they were like, "When can you come?" So I went from doing this, wanting to do this one random monthly show, which we did for a while in this art studio, to being overwhelmed with work.
Yeah.
And I was able to quit my job at the restaurant that I hated. And all of a sudden, I've lost a bunch of weight and I'm enjoying myself and having a good time and working my ass off. My income dropped about 90%, but
But your purpose went up.
Yeah. So
90%.
now it's just grown to this other thing, and yeah, it all started from being in front of this one kid, basically this one young man who had been doing heroin for years.
Well, and it makes sense that you wouldn't have thought that that's a good place to do a show, because I've never heard, when you're basically, it seems to me, performing for people who are probably at their lowest point. And being able to find, you just don't associate that with laughter or being able to smile or anything. And so to be able to go in and do that, I mean, it makes sense that people, sometimes people would respond well to that because that's totally not what they're expecting. They didn't think that they were going to have a chance to actually laugh or smile or feel connected to somebody else. It's a pretty cool thing.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that I've experienced and noticed is that when you're going through really tough times, it's, for a lot of people, myself included, it's really hard to see how fucking funny things are.
Right.
There's a lot of comedy in the tragedy of life.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't think that you have to wait years to look back on a terrible story to laugh at it. Mm-hmm. And you can laugh at it right now.
Sure.
There's something inherently funny about a guy who has gotten to the point in his life where he's ended up he's from Montana and he's got a nice family, and he's ended up in Encino, California, in a hospital drinking or eating ice cream sandwiches.
Right.
And that's as far as he could get in life. It's no one plans for that.
No.
And it's fucking hysterical because that's like if you're making a plan for life, you're not thinking, you know what, around 26, I'm going to get over my crippling drug addiction.
Right. Yeah.
That's not in anyone's plan at all.
No.
But the fact that there's so many people die from it, from all these drugs and stuff. But if you make it out alive, you're a winner.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you make it to the hospital and you're eating ice cream sandwiches and you get to go to sleep in a bed, even if it is a hospital bed, you've won in a lot of ways.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I just love it. I love it.
Well, yeah, I can definitely see why. Well, so let's go back a little bit, maybe before you sort of found this way to, have a positive from all of your past interactions. So, where do you come from?
Where was I born?
Where were you born?
Well, I was, I'm originally from Tucson, Arizona.
Okay.
I was born, I'm 34 now, so I was born in 1984 in Tucson, Arizona, and we moved around, me and my family moved around 6 or 7 times before the age of 5. My brother was born in Beaumont, Texas. So we lived in a couple places in Tucson. We lived in a couple places in East Texas. We lived in La Jolla and Costa Mesa and Carlsbad, California. And then we finally landed back in Tucson when I was 5. And then I lived there from 5 to 18. When I graduated high school, I moved back out to my first place in LA was on 14th and Santa Monica.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said you were kind of telling me you came back, or you came out to LA with a plan, so to speak.
Well, yeah. I mean, I am. I don't know, dude. I'm a gnarly drug addict and alcoholic, from to the core.
Yeah.
That is my my baseline is when I started smoking weed, I was like, oh my God, I want to do this every second of every day. Holy shit. How can I afford to do that? So I was a drug dealer. I would sell weed. I'd buy it from my cousin.
This is in high school?
Yeah, this is high school. I had an older cousin. I'd buy weed from him and then just sell weed to smoke for free and make a couple bucks. And I just found that. And then I was a pizza delivery guy, and I would roll around and I would sell pizzas and sell weed. And I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
So when I moved out to California, my immediate plan was that I was going to be a professional drug dealer. That was the number one plan, that I was moving out to California, and my big dream, I was moving out west, and I was gonna be the next big drug dealer, and that was gonna be the way I broke into the movie industry. Okay, this was my actual thought, because as a kid, I I had heard that Jay-Z had sold crack and started a music label, and became, a multi-millionaire because of his crack sales. So I was like, well, I'm not exactly from the Brooklyn, New York, but I think I can handle myself, and I'm gonna sell coke because I think that's more like culturally appropriate for where I was going. I was gonna go to Santa Monica College, and I thought crack probably wouldn't go over so well there, but I could probably sell some cocaine.
Sure.
And I was like, I'm gonna save up some money, and I'm gonna start a production company. I'm gonna finance my first feature film. And I was such a dumbass, but I honestly thought, like, when I was a teenager, that life was gonna just be easy. That all my plans would just go super smooth, and I would be moving trunkfuls of cocaine. And I watched the movie Blow and only paid attention to the first half of it.
Sure, you can say that for any drug movie.
Yeah, exactly. I'd watch Goodfellas. I'd be like, oh, this is dope. An hour in, oh shit, let's turn it off. This is getting real sad.
Yeah, the helicopters are showing up.
Yeah, fuck that. What an idiot. Like, you gotta quit while you're ahead. So I bought a bunch of cocaine, and I'm like, and I'd done all the drugs already by that time. I was 19, and I started doing drugs when I was a fucking kid. But I get my first ounce of cocaine, and I'm like, this is it. This is my first step into professional drug dealing. Here we go. And so the number one rule, I was following all of the rappers. I was mirroring their model. Yeah. But I didn't follow any of the commandments.
Oh,
the 10 crack commandments, Biggie's 10 crack commandments that's like your Bible. That's your drug dealer Bible. Yeah. And, it's like, don't sell at your house. Don't involve your family. Don't do any of your own drugs. Like, obviously he's rapping them and it sounds way cooler coming out of his mouth. But but I was like, I got this grandma or this ounce of coke. I brought it to my house. And I invited all my friends over and all my closest friends, people that were basically my brothers. And I go, all right, guys, we're going to try this shit to see how
do our due diligence.
We're going to exactly.
It'd be irresponsible not to try it.
Exactly. So as soon as I did it, it was the best coke I'd ever done in my life. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? We'll sell the next one. This one's more like a test ounce, and we'll all do it, and we're gonna have a good time. I've got my friends over here. I want to look cool in front of them. We're gonna just give them all this fucking coke,
right?
And so, yeah, that was in the fall of 2003.
Okay.
By mid winter of 2004, I hadn't stopped doing coke. We did it somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks in a row.
Whew.
I did like a full 50 days in a row. I was high on coke.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
And we eventually started selling it.
Oh, that's good.
Well, yeah. At some point we had to make money. We're like, I think honestly, I was doing a bunch, and then I was like, we got to get more, and then I was like, wait, we can't really afford it. I was like, okay, well, how about I pawn some shit, and we'll get another ounce, but we got to sell it this time. Mm-hmm. So we were pretty good about selling it for a while.
Yeah.
I would carry all the money to my name would go in my front pocket. And it was like a couple $1,000, and it was but used to buy cigarettes and more cocaine and go to the occasional sushi dinner and order wine with my fake ID, because I thought that's what drug dealers do. What kind of drug dealer are you if you're not going to sushi dinners? But I was going to some bullshit place on 3rd Street Promenade.
When I think drug dealers, I think sushi.
You think sushi dinners, right? You think raw? When you think of drug dealers, you think of raw fish.
Always, yeah.
I was so dumb. It was the dumbest thing of all time. So, the kicker was that a couple things happened. Around the first month of being really into this whole cocaine binge, we started to get some pretty big ideas.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever done drugs before?
Yeah, I've dabbled, I'd say.
You dabbled. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you take one little bump of cocaine and all of a sudden you got these big ideas. You want to start a business, whoever. We're now best friends. We're now plotting and planning for our future. We're about to be the kings of the neighborhood and blah, blah, blah. And then you wake up the next day and you realize you're an idiot.
Yes.
And it was the cocaine talking.
Yes.
And that's very much a cliche trope of doing drugs, is that you're going to have these big ideas and the next day you're going to be like, haha, we're morons.
That describes like a 2-week binge I had in New Orleans years ago, where I was just talking with complete strangers until like 5 a.m, and then about grand plans, and then I'd never see them again, and then I'd wake up at noon. And
Exactly.
Anyway, yes,
And it's a fun story that you remember, and you go, "Ha, wasn't that a weird night that we had?"
exactly.
Well, when you're selling cocaine and doing half of it, that little grand plan, you start to work it out.
Yeah.
And that starts to become a reality. So the grand plan that we had was that we're standing on my balcony, we're looking out into the alley, and we see this pile of wood. And we're like, you know what, man, we loved skateboarding, me and my roommate. And we're like, you know what, man, we would be amazing skate park builders.
Skate park builder. Okay. All right.
This is what we want to do. We want to build skate parks. You and I, fuck all this mainstream bullshit. Let's just like build a skate park, and we'll start a skate team, and everyone's going to come to it because it's going to be the most innovative skate park that anyone has ever seen. Right? So that was night one. By night whatever, I don't know, at some point a month into this thing, the skate park idea had become a reality, and we were building it inside our 2-bedroom apartment. That was the niche that we had found. We're like, let's take it one step further. Everyone builds skate parks, but no one builds skate parks inside their homes.
And I'm sure you had lofted ceilings and everything. Perfect.
Absolutely not. Yeah. We were living in like a 700 square foot apartment. We didn't even have a dishwasher. But we had built a half pipe inside our kitchen.
Oh my God.
We were pulling wood, all this plywood in from the alley, and we just started hammering it into the kitchen. Hammering into the kitchen.
I'm guessing the landlord didn't live in your building.
Oh, no, the landlord did not come by the house.
Okay.
They weren't knocking on our door.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Not even close. And we were so in it that like at some point they turned our power off. Like we were like full junkies. We were full drug addicts at this point, and they turned our power off. We were living by candlelight. And we're like, these motherfuckers, what the fuck? Yeah. Had no idea. And then we're living by candlelight, skating in our skate park, doing a bunch of coke.
Like John Adams living by candlelight.
Yeah, dude.
Minus the skating and the coke.
Yeah, dude. It was fucking nuts, bro.
So when you were building the park, was this mainly when you were on coke, or when you were also not?
We were high the whole time.
High the whole time. Okay.
Well, yeah, we were up. We'd stay up until, I don't know, the morning, and at some point you'd sleep.
Right, sure.
It's not meth, like if you do meth, you're up for days,
right.
But you do enough coke, you start to acclimate to it, and you're able to sleep, especially if you're drinking and smoking weed along the way.
Right.
So we would just be building it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'd eat, and I'd go skateboard outside and go like run whatever I thought errands were. We'd go to the 99-cent store to buy potatoes, and we were just huge into like, we got this deep fryer. I don't know where we got this deep fryer. When you're young, when you're a kid, like in college age, that like things just appear in your apartment, and you're like, I don't know how the fuck we got that, but we ended up with this deep fryer.
Yep.
And we were like, for I don't even know how long, all we would eat was fried potatoes in different forms. Fried whole potatoes, fried chips, fried fries, fried half potatoes, wedges. So we were like we'd be deep frying and skating, and big thing, my roommate was really like frugal through this whole thing, and we'd go, it was great attribute is his frugality. Yeah. He's I'm going to his wedding next year. This guy, we're all on the straight and narrow now, but it was so funny. He'd get we'd go to the 99-cent store, and we'd buy like a loaf of bread, a pack of bologna, potatoes, and maybe some other random things. Yeah. But I just remember him being so aggro about the amount of bologna that I would put on these sandwiches. he would allow me one slab a day. Ooh. Yeah. He's like, what do you think, we are, rich? He's like, oh, Mr. Rich Boy putting 2 slabs of bologna on his sandwich. You know, we're in this like veritable sweatshop working on this skate park and eating 1 slab of bologna a day and a bunch of whole fried potatoes.
Yeah, beacon of health. Yeah.
Yeah, so like that was, I don't know, that was just.
Did you have like rails to grind on and stuff?
Well, we had a half pipe in the kitchen, so the kitchen was enclosed, right? So like the kitchen was like let's imagine like a floor plan. The kitchen was like right here, and there was a half pipe in it, and there was a little doorway out like at the bottom of the half pipe in the middle, and it led out to a hallway. So we had a little track that you could skate through down the hallway, and then there was a quarter pipe aligned in the guest bedroom. We had pulled everything out of the guest bedroom and made a quarter pipe into the guest bedroom, so you could essentially, if you were really, really trying, you could drop into the quarter pipe and skate down the hallway and then into the half pipe and then skate the half pipe. And that's as far as we got.
Well, hey, that's not bad.
No,
that's pretty impressive.
I mean, no, we hadn't really, there wasn't really space for a rail.
Sure, I wouldn't think so.
But we had to, we got evicted from that place.
Yeah, I was going to ask how this ended.
Okay, so this ended, like, this was nuts. And this was like the beginning of me doing drugs too. This wasn't even the end. This was like I was heating up. But so I'm selling this coke, and I think I'm really cool. And I thought, you know what? It's time to go to the next level. I'm small time. I'm just nickel and diming these bags of coke at clubs and parties and shit. Yeah. Like I was the type of guy. I was 19. I put on Italian boots in this like this light tan suede blazer, and I would tuck a button down shirt into jeans, and I would go talk on my cell phone in the front of clubs and act like I was important and like weasel my way into Hollywood clubs. And then it was stupid. I was so dumb. I was an idiot. So I'm like, I'm nickel and diming at these clubs. This is bullshit. I need to level up. And so I thought, you know what? I'm gonna make a deal, and I'm gonna start selling to my dealer. And I had met this guy who had this different weed and this other guy who had this coke, and I was putting together this big old 3-way transaction. A friend of mine, an old friend of mine that I grew up with that shall remain nameless, but this guy is one of the best. He was a drug dealer in Arizona, and oh man, this guy was nuts. Yeah, but I was having him come up to kind of facilitate this deal, and he was going to spend a bunch of money so that I could then level up. And like this was the day that ended all day. We got evicted like a couple days later.
Okay,
but because I lost all my money, and the whole thing fell through. Obviously,
sure.
So this guy shows up at my house with a. We're all waiting around for him, right? And he's coming from Arizona, and he shows up at my house, high as a kite, holding a harpoon gun.
Oh.
I open the door, and he's just like, hey, and he's holding this harpoon gun, and he cocks it. It doesn't actually cock like a shotgun, but he cocks it, and he's like, what's going on? We're ready to fuck shit up. And he comes into the house, and we're getting ready for this big drug deal to happen, and he's like on every drug there is. He's high on coke, he's high on meth, he's high on mushrooms, he's hallucinating, he's freaking out. And I'm like, yo, man, why'd you bring the harpoon gun? He's like, because if anything goes down, this is the best murder weapon you could have. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, you need to kill someone, use a harpoon gun, because you shoot him in the chest, you can pull that thing out and retrieve it. And then by the time they figure out what's going on, I'm in Mexico harpooning fish. And when a detective looks at this is the words that came out of his mouth. When a detective looks at a harpoon gun wound, he can't figure out what it is.
He'll never know.
And so by the time he figures out it's a harpoon gun, this thing's clean as a whistle from harpooning marlins. I'm like, okay, that's pretty sound logic. Wow. I was like, wow, you are a genius. Okay, let's order a couple more of these harpoon guns. So we're sitting in my apartment waiting for this whole thing to go down, and it was going to go down. I was going to make it happen, and along the way thank God this happened, because I stopped dealing drugs after this moment. Mm-hmm. But the guy who was bringing all of the weed to to make this transaction called and was like, hey man, I got in a car accident. I can't make it.
Oh, wow.
I'm not coming. And that really ruined everything.
Sure.
I brought a lot of people together who didn't trust me to begin with, and they were like, "Wait a minute, this guy isn't coming because he got in a car accident. Like, give me all your money." So I had to go into my stash. I had to give them all my money, and the guy with the harpoon gun was going to go. Well, he wanted to go next. We were dealing with my next door neighbor. This was one of the guys who was like facilitating it, and he wanted to go. He wanted to go kill him with the harpoon gun. He wanted to go use it. So we started smoking. He had some heroin, black tar heroin. We started freebasing the black tar heroin and to calm him down.
Yeah.
And so the only reason he was sitting there, and he's sitting there, and the harpoon gun's on his lap, and he's like, man, the only reason I'm not going over there to kill him right now is because I'm so high on this heroin. And I was like, holy shit, heroin just saved all of our lives.
Wow.
Oh my God. And like that moment, I was like, I got to stop.
Yeah.
This is nuts. This is fucking nuts, dude. Yeah. And it was pretty gnarly. And then a couple weeks went by, and like the guys that I was dealing with were like threatening the neighbor, and it was for fucking up the deal. And I had gotten evicted, and I moved in with this girl that I had gone to. I went to Vegas with this girl for one night, and then we moved in together.
Oh.
Yeah, as you do. And so I'm living with my new girlfriend. I get a phone call and from some guy who's like, yeah, my name's Tony. I'm calling from the Bellagio Hotel. If you don't believe me, hang up the phone, dial this number, ask to be connected here, and blah blah blah. Hangs up the phone. Call the number back. It's like Bellagio Hotel. I'm like, can I be connected to room, blah, whatever. And he's like, all right, you believe me now? He's like, you need to stop fucking threatening this guy. I know where the fuck you are. You live on this street, this apartment in Brooks. You're at this apartment number. You're there with so and so. And if I ever see you around this neighborhood again, or if they ever see you around this neighborhood again, you're fucking dead. And I was like, okay, what? This is fucking insane. And that's like where my life went from. Like, I moved out to California in August of 2003, and this was all happened and it was wrapped up and done by the end of February of 2004.
Okay, so you got in deep quick.
I got in deep quick.
Yeah,
man.
Wow. So you were trying to orchestrate. Like, you were selling coke to your weed dealer?
I was gonna start selling weed to my weed dealer by facilitating a coke deal to the guy who wanted to sell weed to my weed dealer.
Okay.
Does it make any sense to you? Because it shouldn't, yes. Because we were all high.
Yeah. See, that's what okay. I just wanted to wrap my head around that a little bit. So that's an interesting, like when you had that realization that you've got to stop now, like, and the fact that you described, you're dealing with a crazy person with a harpoon gun. I imagine most of the people that you're interacting with are maybe not quite at that level, but you're just dealing with very unstable, crazy people within this world, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, did you ever?
Everyone's very unstable in the drug world.
I would think,
you can imagine. Yeah, they're on drugs.
But. Did you were you able to retain some sort of, I don't know what the word would be, to know in that moment that you weren't so far in it, you were able to take a step back? Or I'm having a hard time describing this question, but
okay, so what you're saying is what was the moment where I was like, holy shit, I got to stop? Yeah,
and how were you able to have that moment, in this, if you were all fucked up and on drugs and everything else?
Well, we I was like, when that night happened,
yeah,
I was like, oh my God, I've got to change something in my life. Yeah. I didn't know what it was yet, but I was like, something is going seriously wrong.
You're looking at a guy threatening to kill somebody with a harpoon gun.
And I'm like, this is nuts. This is not normal. And then I got, maybe like a week later, I got that phone call from that Italian guy. And most likely, I mean, 1000%. He was just some guy in North Hollywood that was just, trying to scare me.
Right.
And he's not actually a guy at the Bellagio Hotel. Like,
Sure.
who the fuck am I? What is this, casino? Like, where are you serious? Like, fuck out of here. We were selling like $5 worth of cocaine. This was not that big of a deal.
Right.
But so I had this thought, something's got to change. And then I got that phone call, and I'm standing in front of my roommate, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I just got this phone call. This guy wants to he says he's going to kill me. And my roommate looks at me and he goes, Zane, every single decision we've made for the past 90 days has been a cocaine decision. We have to stop.
Yeah.
We got to stop this. And I was like, you know what? Maybe let's take a day off. And so we did. We took one day off, and it was like, okay, let's not make any decisions on cocaine anymore. And I just stopped doing it on a regular basis. And yeah. Fuck.
Okay. So you pretty much were done with drugs at that point?
No,
Or
I
not?
mean, here's the thing. I had all these different eras of drugs. Like, I was always a drinker and a weed smoker. Like, I never stopped doing that.
Sure.
But I stopped doing cocaine every day.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's an improvement.
It's an improvement.
Yes, that is certainly an improvement. Everyday cocaine use.
Moved in with that chick, the Vegas chick. We lived together for a few months. That blew up. I moved to Colorado for a couple months to live with my brother, who was living out there. We bartended and snowboarded for a winter, and then I moved back to California. Moved back to LA like 6 months later in the spring of 2005. Went back to school. Went to theater school. Got into the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and met a Swedish girl there. Graduated, got married, got divorced, kept partying. And just all kinds of crazy shit happened along the way, and then got married again. Got recently divorced a year and a half ago, and yeah, it's nuts too.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a bunch of different jobs along the way. I was a door-to-door meat salesman. I sold gym memberships. I was did every single job in the restaurant business that you could do. And by the end of it, like 2 years ago, I was the director of operations of a medium-sized restaurant group here in LA. And I mean, I haven't done drugs or drank in a long time, but yeah, dude, it's been.
Can you talk to me about selling meat door to door?
Yeah, I can talk to you about selling meat store to door.
That sounds fascinating.
In 2000, so Josh Nasser, you're familiar with Josh Nasser? He's a comedian.
Yeah.
A comedian, regular at the Comedy Store. He's been around a long time. Love this guy. A lot of people have differing opinions about him and his energy, but I absolutely love the man. He taught me so much, and he's hysterical. But I was in desperate need of a job around... I guess this was January of 2011. I call him. He had said, "Hey man, if you want to come help me move some boxes or whatever, I can give you a job." And so I texted him. I was like, "Hey man, you still need help moving some boxes?" He calls me. He's like, "Sales job start tomorrow." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Zane, trust me, you'll be great at this." He's like, give me 1 week to train you, and I swear to God, you're gonna love it. And at that moment, I was like, fine. Yeah. I needed the money.
You needed a job.
I was like, whatever, sure. Are you gonna pay me $50 tomorrow for helping you? He's like, absolutely. I'm like, I'm there. Yeah. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's an entire frozen meat industry.
What's the company with the truck, this Omaha Steaks? Maybe?
Right. So Omaha Steaks is like the Coca-Cola of meat sales.
Okay.
Right. You order them online. Your grandparents try to get it for you for Christmas. Yes. The steaks sit in your freezer for 2 years.
Yes.
You throw them away. You've never eaten an Omaha steak.
No, I haven't.
But you've seen them. You've touched them. You've smelled them. You've heard about them.
Yes.
So other than Omaha Steaks, there's a bunch of little local outfits in every little state where you can go. You can go to, if you have a wholesale dealer's little license, you can go down to the docks in Long Beach and pick up cases of meat wholesale.
Okay.
Okay. And inside a case of meat, you'll open up a case, and inside the case, there's going to be a box of 4 New York strips, a couple ribeyes, a couple fillets, Angus fillets, some burgers, and some other bullshit, some other tenderloin strips. And you can get steak, you can get chicken, you can get pork, you can get seafood, lobster tails, shrimps,
Anything you want.
anything you want, as long as you like your meat grade D, and as long as you like to have 15 to 20% water solution injected into those meats, and you like those meats frozen as fuck, you can get them, right? So people go, like, companies buy these boxes and they hire salesmen to put those boxes of meat in freezers in the back of pickup trucks. And then those salesmen, sometimes really high salesmen, go out and knock on doors and go, "Hey, sorry to bother you. I'm wholesaling out steak, seafood, and chicken. I'm going to show you what I got." And then you go,
It's like you've done this before.
Yeah. You know, it's hi, sorry to bother you. I wholesale out steak, seafood, and chicken. I'm going to show you what I got. And then you run, and then this is the pitch. So, like, I go out with Josh Nasser, who is one of the greatest people I know. It's incredible, and to tell you the truth, the meat's not that bad. You know, it's whatever. It's not the best meat in the world. It's frozen meat. Yeah, it's edible. I liked it. We used to go to this open mic back in the day, and I would bring all my extra meat over. We'd barbecue. Everyone had a great time. As long as you're not super picky, it's freaking great food.
Sure.
The burgers are known to set a grill on fire time or two because they're so greasy, but it's edible. I swear to God.
A side note, I had that experience with Flanders patties, and that is my last name. They sell them at Walmart. And
Flanders?
So yeah. And I was like, well, I have to buy these because it's my last name. And it was one of those like 24 patties for $5 things. And they literally just caught it on fire on the stovetop just right away. And I was actually stoned out of my mind in college, and my roommate came in, and there was just smoke everywhere, and I'm just laughing hysterically. Anyway, so yeah, I get the...
So you're familiar with the type of meat we're dealing with?
Yes.
It's the Flanders of wholesale meats out there. So I go out with... I go to the shop, we pack up a little truck, I go out with Josh, and I've never seen anyone sell so beautifully before. This man, it's like watching Neo when he finally realizes he's the one in the Matrix. It's just like he's doing slow motion karate and just absolutely destroying the agent, but in this verbal way, right? He's got the pitch laid down. It's it's so it's hilarious because it works. You say, "Hey, I'm wholesaling out steak, seafood, and chicken. I'm going to show you what I got," and then you run away.
Goodbye.
First move of the pitch is run away, and you run and you go grab the meat from the truck and you run it back as fast as possible. And you got all this. You got 3 boxes stacked up, and it's really heavy, and you can barely hold it. And you're like, "Hey, man, as soon as it defrosts, I can't refreeze it." Which is true. Yeah. If this shit defrosts, I can't refreeze it, so I'm selling it out today. $3 a steak, and you probably can get it for less. And so they go, "What? Okay." And you show them all these meats. You got dozens of meats in front of them, laid out in their fucking garage, and you kind of put it in a semicircle, so it kind of corners them, so they can't really get away. And you go, "How much do you pay for a steak?" You go to the store. What do you like to pay for a steak?
Maybe like $12.
Okay, $12.
Yeah,
that's like a good deal for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so for $12 at the price you're paying, with 10 to 12 steaks in each one of these boxes, 6 boxes in a pack, you're paying somewhere around $800 for one of these cases of steaks at $12 a steak, right? So now I have 10 of these cases, right? Now, let me ask you a question. Yeah. 10 of these cases, that would cost you, if one's going to cost you $600 to $800, 10 would cost you what? $6,000 to $8,000.
Yes.
Right. At $12 a steak. Mm-hmm. So let me tell you, we're talking about obviously hundreds of pieces of steaks. It looks very overwhelming, and it's like, now, what do you pay? What do you pay a week in groceries?
Oh, about $65, $70.
Okay, $65, $70. All right. So at your price, $6,000 to $8,000, I'm going to only charge you like 20 weeks worth of your groceries.
Oh,
Right. Yeah. So now I'm going to give you, how long would one of these cases last you? It's like 50 steaks, right?
Year.
Right. Right. I mean, even if you eat meat 3-4 days a week, this shit's going to last you over a month. This is going to take a long time for you to get through that. So I show you, I'm like, I've got 10 of these cases. And you would normally pay $8,000 for all of this meat. I'm going to sell it to you for $2,500. Yeah. And you're like, I've got no place to store it. It's like, I'm going to give you the freezer on the back of my truck. It's worth $1,000. So basically, you're paying $1,500. So for 10 weeks worth of your groceries, 2.5 months, I'm going to feed you for the next 5 years. And so you're doing this pitch, and obviously that's ridiculous.
Yes.
That is a ridiculous thing. This steak right here, I'm going to eat this steak that I see on my floor 5 years from now? You're out of your fucking mind. But it's like, look, man, for 10 weeks worth of your groceries, even if you have a family of 4,
right? You're
like, I don't know, we eat steak a couple times a week, and we spend like $300 a week on groceries. Okay, so for, I don't know, 2 months worth of your groceries, I'm going to feed you for a year.
Yeah.
Like, wake up.
Yeah.
Hello.
Deal of a lifetime.
Deal of a lifetime. You know, so I'm watching him do this pitch, and he does it so fast, so beautifully, and the woman's like, "Look, you got me, but I'm not spending $3,000 right now."
Yeah.
So you're like, "All right, fine. You know what? She's like, I spent $300 on groceries." And so you ask her if she wants like 10 or 6 or 5 cases or whatever, and then fine, he's like, "Look, as soon as this stuff defrosts, I can't refreeze it. It's going." So like, you buy one of these cases, I'm going to give you the all of the chicken and all of the seafood for free. And she looks at him and goes like, okay.
Yeah.
And I was with him for, I don't know, 15 minutes. And he the first person he talked to, this woman was pulling out of her driveway. Mm-hmm. He knocks on her window and he's like, hey, he's being goofy, like does a little dance. He's like, hey. And within 10 minutes, he sold her like $600 or $700 worth of food.
Wow.
And it's, I mean, the thing is that he was good on his word. If I watched him, if anyone ever wanted to exchange something or whatever,
yeah.
Or they wanted to swap something out, or they didn't like it, or anything like that, he gave them his personal cell phone number. He'd go swap it out for him. But he fills this woman's freezer and gets paid. You go to the bank, he gets paid, he gives me my $50, and we worked for like a couple hours. He sold everything in the truck.
Wow.
So like he's maybe talked to 20 people. He sold 5 of them and emptied out everything in this truck. And I was like, see, easy as pie. Easy as pie.
Yeah.
And so I followed him around for a week and like learned the pitch, and I just repeated it over and over again. And I went out and I started selling. Oh my God, it was the easiest money I'd ever made.
Wow.
It was incredible. Yeah. I mean, the first 9 months, I would go out, I'd work, I was making like $1,500 a week cash, working 15 hours a week.
Wow.
I would go out and just like, I would be driving through Pasadena, and there would be a couple moms. I just got to the point where I was just like, didn't give a fuck. There'd be a couple of moms playing with their kids on the front lawn. I'd be speeding through a neighborhood in Pasadena. I'd slam on my brakes, and it's like, arr! And I'd hop out of my truck I was much younger at the time. I had no mustache. I looked very young and unassuming. And I would dress like a tennis player. I'd wear checkered shorts and had a little tennis hat. I'd tuck my shirt in, wear a polo, and look as handsome as possible. And these ladies would be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Ladies, I'm here to cook you lunch." Ooh, yeah, ooh. And I would. They'd be like, "What are you talking about?" I'd go grab some steaks out and be like, "What do you like? Steak? You want some lobsters for lunch?" They're like, "What is this?" and I'd be like, "I'm here to cook for you." And it's like I remember this. I did this a number of times, but I remember I go to the back of this lady's house. I open up her grill, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm cooking for you. No big deal." Patting the kids on the head. I cook them all lunch. And then she's like, and then I'm giving them the pitch along the way. Sell them hundreds of dollars worth of food. And go back like 3 times a year. And they're like, "Oh, Zane's here. Hey, big party." It's nuts. There was like 6 times that I never believed that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I'd be like, "All right, how much do you spend a week on your grocery bill?" They'd be like, "I don't know, $200-300. I'm like, "Okay, so for 10 weeks worth of groceries, I'm going to feed you for the next year." They'd be like, "Okay, you're going to give me the freezer? Let's do it."
Yeah.
I'd be like, Wait, what? What? Huh?
This is working?
This is working? Then I'm fucking kicking a full chest freezer off the back of a pickup truck and plugging it into their wall socket in their backyard and then leaving. My buddy, I had this buddy Leland, dude. He bought thousands of dollars worth of meat. He just couldn't get enough of it. He'd throw parties. I gave him 2 different freezers. On his birthday, I went to Ralph's. He was such a great customer. I went to Ralph's. I bought him Maine lobsters. I just bought them. I was like, you like lobsters? He's like, I love them. I brought 4 lobsters over for his birthday.
Yeah.
He didn't give a shit. I swapped different freezers out for him, and it was nuts. But then, so that was the fun part.
Yeah.
But then the other part is that you're a door-to-door salesman.
Right.
So some weeks I'd work 10 hours. Some weeks I'd work 40.
Yeah.
A year into it, it started to really wear on me. And I just getting up and doing the sales was just tougher and tougher. And because you would receive so much hate, dude. And you'd be chased by the cops because you're doing it illegally.
Well, I was going to ask. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have
overhead on this?
one of my, the guy I would ride in my truck with in Pasadena got taken to jail one day. He had an old warrant for his arrest off speeding ticket or a weed ticket or something from 4 years prior. We got pulled over for soliciting. I got a ticket. He got taken to jail.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Okay.
I got a couple guns pulled on me. Yeah, dude. Straight up. I got the old shotgun through the people like Ventura, like who's asking,
Yes, Satan.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh no, that's not the reference. I know what you're talking about. When he Finkel. Yeah, with the Finkel's dad.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, how do you know Ray Finkel?
I'm looking for Ray Finkel and a clean pair of shorts.
Yeah, straight up in some old guy in North Hollywood. I was just knocking on his door, and all of a sudden, I get the shotgun through the peephole, and I'm like,
Jesus,
I'm just a salesman. One time in Pasadena, I was knocking on the door, and it was kind of like it was dusk, and around from the side of the guy's house, this guy comes out with a pistol in his hand. Like the homeowner comes around and is like, what are you looking for? I'm like, I'm looking for someone to buy these meats.
Right.
Yeah. They are going.
You're looking around like, we're in the suburbs here. We're not like in the Wild West.
Yeah, dude. Got chased by some dogs, got cursed at a bunch.
Well, and that's really where it gets taxing, because I've done those jobs before too, where you have to really be on. And you're like in salesman mode. And it kind of kills you because the high and, you have to be pretending and on and high energy. And then, I don't know, for me at least, it was just the up and down of my day was just so exhausting.
It is. It's very mentally exhausting. Yeah. It's like, you just got to be on. Yeah. You got to be really getting after it. Yeah. All day. Yeah. And yeah, that starts to get fucking taxing, dude.
People just and perhaps some listeners have bought. I've had a couple times where over the years where somebody's knocked on my door trying to sell me meat, and the idea is so ludicrous to me. And maybe it's because I don't have a family or anything, But I'm just like, I'm not going to buy meat out of somebody's car. It just seems so ridiculous. But I mean, it's really a testament to being a good salesman, I guess. And so I don't know. It's just so funny. I don't know.
The funny thing is people will buy anything.
Well, yeah.
You ask enough people, someone's going to say yes. Yeah. And if you're friendly and nice, it doesn't matter what you're selling. They're buying you. They're buying an experience with you. And I could have been selling, I don't know, waffles.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly.
And it wouldn't have mattered. Yeah. They just are like, oh, hey, Zane's here. What do you got? Okay.
So during all this time, are you also doing stand-up?
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. I was doing. Yeah, I started doing stand up in July of 2008, and I never really stopped. I just when I quit doing drugs, it became this slow decline, and I went from doing it 7 days a week to there was just a couple years there where it had become much more of a secondary priority in my life. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've always been doing stand up.
Right. Okay. So then how did the meat sale gig end? Were you just fed up with it, or?
Yeah, I was just fed up.
Yeah.
It was the summer of 2012 and it was hot and I was like, this sucks, man. Like when I first got the job, I was very just enthusiastic about it. And just, I guess 18 months later, it had lost its allure.
Sure.
And I felt like I had burnt up all of the areas. I had knocked on I literally, from West Hills to Burbank to Pasadena, I knocked on every single door there is. Like I'll drive through a suburban neighborhood now and get the chills. Like it's fucking meat streets. Like.
Well, it makes sense
like
because if you are selling meat, if you sell them a year's worth of meat, they're not going to need anything for a while, right? I mean,
right? Yeah, and it's like at some point, it became a job,
sure.
And you're running, if you're really doing it, you're not walking to each door, you're running,
right? Yeah,
So I was just like, I was just over it.
Well, as we're kind of wrapping up, I'm sort of curious, and I don't know that there's an answer to this, but I just want to go back to that moment. With the harpoon guy and you realizing that you needed to get out. What is it? Why do you think that was your reaction as opposed to other people who may have been in that room who didn't see any absurdity in the situation and maybe just kept going down that line, that way of life? Why do you think you were able to be aware enough to know that like you've got to get out of this?
I guess inherently I've always known what the right thing to do is. And deep down I always knew that selling drugs was a stupid idea.
Yeah.
And quote unquote easy way out. When I'm always looking to find a shortcut.
Right.
And instead of having a real job, I thought selling drugs would be easier.
Yeah.
But in my heart of hearts, I knew that if I was ever going to be a successful man, that I would need to take responsibility for myself and grow up.
Yeah.
And so I knew that going into it. And along the way, as I got older, I mean, I was 19 when this was going on.
Sure.
This was 15 years ago. Yeah. But along the way, I had these moments of clarity that was just like, all right, man, now's the time. You got to stop and you got to move on, or you're never going to be able to achieve the things you want to achieve.
Right. Yeah. That voice in your head.
Yeah. I had this little voice, and everyone's got that little voice in their head.
Yeah.
That little intuition that a lot of times this is the thing I'm working on today, is I try to listen to my gut.
Yeah.
A lot of times I will completely disregard my gut and walk in the other direction and do a bunch of shit that causes me a lot of pain.
Right.
But so I guess that's the answer to that question.
Sure.
Is that like I had a moment of clarity and I listened to my inner self.
Well, and I guess in that way, you're just lucky you have like, a good enough head on your shoulders, and we're able to have that moment before it was too late.
Oh God, thank God.
Yeah. And yeah, so and then the fact that what you're doing now, I mean, I've never heard anything like it. And so now when you do these tours, is it you and several other comedians? Or?
Well, I bring a host and an opener, depending on because it's expensive to travel, so depending on how big the budget is each time, I'll bring a host or an opener, and we'll either drive or fly or whatever, but right. I do an hour.
And is most of your material drug related for this audience, or
no? Not, it's just the message is that you can go through fucked up shit and one, laugh at it, two, live through it, and it can be something that turns your life in. All of the dark things in your life can become positives, and so, I mean, I don't go out there trying to pander that message to the people, but I do a little bit of drug material, a little bit of relationship material, some dark stuff, about my divorce, and then some uplifting family shit, and that's the act.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
just
great.
it's just in and out.
Sure.
And the people seem to vibe.
Yeah.
You know, so it's working.
That's all you can ask for. Well, thanks so much for coming on and talking about all this.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Thanks, man.
That was the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I really did. Pretty much as soon as we wrapped up, I told him I'd really like to help out in some way with the stuff that he's doing. And we've met a couple times since our conversation, and I hope that something good comes of it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give us that 5 stars. You can do it. I know. I have faith in you. You can do it. All right. I'm going to go take a nap because I still have all the drugs in me. They knock you out for that procedure. That's why I'm still a little loopy. So, dopamine, I think, could have been that. I don't know. Strong stuff. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and until next Wednesday, keep laughing.